Here we are on a Victory Monday. One thing I want to get out of the way before I start today's show. Yes, the mic sucked in yesterday's video, in yesterday's post-game report. It was terrible. It was atrocious. And as you can hear and as you could see, it actually wasn't a mic problem. I don't got to get rid of this mic. It was human error. It was my bad. I'm sorry for that. I accidentally had the volume knob turned all the way up. It was like at an 8 or 9, and the max level you can go is 10. So that's why it sounded shitty. I tried to even adjust it afterwards to make it sound better. So you actually, what you heard was awful. Like, it wasn't good, but I think the OG audio coming off of the Bleach Report stream was like god awful. It was even worse. So I tried to make adjustments. I tried to make it so it wasn't so bad, but it still was bad. And I admit that. My bad on that. Don't have to get rid of the mic. Don't have to get rid of the mixer. I just need to check the levels before I go live next time. And I think we got it at a good spot now. Everything should be A1 going forward. But for today's show, we're just going to keep it simple on a Victory Monday. Let's just do winners and losers from yesterday's game. I haven't done this in a minute. I think we did it a couple times for last year and last season. But yeah, haven't done like a winners and losers for the Monday morning reaction. Not obviously morning anymore. We're in the middle of the afternoon. But yeah, let's just do winners and losers. Got a good list of names for the winners and then a few for the losers. And we're not going to go over the top on the losers either. We're good, man. Like, we're at 7-2. I know we can complain about the defense. We can complain about things, nitpick things. But sometimes you just got to enjoy where you're at. We're at 7-2, man. 7-2. One of the top teams in the AFC. We got an offense. Yes, the defense can be better. Yes, some individual players have played better. But let's not go overboard. So we'll talk about some of the guys that weren't as good at the latter part of this show. But let's start with the winners. Russell Wilson. Russ is back, man. Like, prime Russ is back. Old Russ is back. Seattle Russ is back. However you want to categorize him. He was the first Steelers quarterback. This is a stat for you. First Steelers quarterback since Big Ben in Big Ben's last season of 2021 to throw for 3+ touchdowns in a game. And that game for Ben, where he threw 3+, was actually 4 touchdowns. It was in the Vikings game where he led the epic comeback in the second half, and the O-line was just atrocious in the first half. Ben was getting beat up. Had to overcome all that. Had to overcome a shitty defense that was getting gashed by Dalvin Cook. And march us back to within 1 score. Led the game-winning drive, 2, threw an absolute dime to Pat Freiermuth over the middle in between two defenders. And Muth couldn't hang on. That was the Claypool celebration game where he cost us an additional play by wasting time celebrating a simple first down. So, yeah, that was the last time a Steelers quarterback threw for 3 touchdowns or more. Russ did it in this game. He's been on fire these 3 games that he came back. Jets game, Giants game, and this one. Offense has put up 30 points in 2 of the 3. This Commanders one, we put up 28. Could have easily been 30+ if Pierre catches the fake punt and if Jaylen Warren doesn't fumble at the goal line. But Russ was clutch. It wasn't the prettiest of games. He didn't have the best of connections with our receivers outside of Pickens for the majority of it. But when push came to shove, it was a do-or-die drive, end of the game. We needed a touchdown. Russell Wilson delivered. It's something that he's done. It's a situation he's been in probably how many times throughout the course of his career? I don't even know. Numerous times. Stuff like this, going up against a 7-2 team on the road. A Sunday night football game, a Monday night football game in prime time. This stuff doesn't faze Russell Wilson. He's been there, done that, Super Bowl champion, has had success in the playoffs, been to an additional Super Bowl, has been through all that stuff. Nothing phases him, nothing surprises him. So I'm glad to see that he's still playing at this high level because we could really use that experience and that wherewithal that he brings to the table. Next, Patrick Queen. Probably Patrick Queen's best game as a Steeler. Looked like the all-pro / Pro Bowl dude that we signed this offseason for $13 million a year. First half of the game, man, he was really flying around out there. Really flying around, getting tackles for loss. His final stat line was 7 total tackles, led the Steelers, 2 tackles for loss, and then also had a pass deflection. Just looked good, man. Wasn't getting cooked in coverage, wasn't missing tackles to the degree that we've been seeing him miss tackles. There's been at least like 1 or 2 that pop up over the course of these last however many games with Queen where you're just like, bro, is he on ice skates? What's going on here? That looks like a pretty remedial tackle that a Pro Bowl talent should be making. But, yeah, I think part of it, too, was the injury. He's been dealing with the groin injury for the last month or so. So probably coming out of the bye and getting that rest really helped him. So, yeah, I feel like this was the most comfortable he's looked in a Steeler uniform, and this was his best game. So shout out to Patrick Queen. I got to also shout out and put in the winners category the coaches. We looked pretty prepared coming out the gate. Scored on our second series. Defense was pretty legit. We had a nice fake punt dialed up on special teams if we got a certain look. Tomlin's right. You call that again. You call that every time. You should have no regrets about that. James Pierre's just got to catch the ball. Yeah, I think right out the gate, we looked really prepared, as we should be coming out of the bye, but that's something we can't really take for granted. I think that's something that's been complained about a lot from Steeler fans over the last 3-4 years with some of these games, whether it's coming out of a bye or we're going into a game that we feel like we should win. Sometimes we looked unprepared. Sometimes we looked flat, but definitely not in this one. And shout out to the coaches, too, like Arthur Smith, for sticking with the run game, even when it wasn't looking the prettiest, even when some of our runs were getting just 2-3 yards a pop. It still was able to keep the Commanders' defense off balance and keep our offense in balance and keep on schedule. Because we would get the 2 or 3 yards, maybe we get another 2 or 3 yards on second down, but then it'd be third and short, and that's when you have options. That's when you're not going on an uphill battle as an offense, because if you take an early sack on first down, you get penalties, or you're getting a couple incompletions and you're not a balanced team and you're off schedule, then that's when you're in a third and long situation and you continue to do that, drive in, drive out, and your offense gets flat. And there were times where the offense was getting flat. It wasn't the best, but I think you got to shout out Arthur Smith for sticking with the run, because we still ended up with a $140 on the ground total. Combination of Najee and Jalen. Russ scrambled for a couple. I know Cordarrelle Patterson had a couple snaps too. It was for 3.3 yards per carry. Again, it wasn't pretty, but still 140 on the ground. That helps you in the winning effort. So I guess in a way, I don't know what to do about the running game. Do we shout out the running game? Do we put them in the winners? I think we do for the overall production, the 140 yards, the touchdown from Najee. But then you have the Jaylen Warren fumble. But, like, Warren, I felt like had a pretty good game. 4.7 yards per carry. He was a spark when Najee wasn't running his best or things just weren't really clicking on the offensive side of things. Whenever we were giving the ball to Warren, whenever we were getting him involved in the passing game, it seemed like there was a spark there. But then, unfortunately, he had the fumble at the goal line. So, mixed bag with him, mixed bag with the run game. But I think, ultimately, I'm going to put them in the winners category. Also, we got to throw Highsmith in there, because I actually thought he played a pretty good game. He was getting some pressure on Jaden Daniels, getting him off kilter. But the fact that he only suffered an ankle sprain is likely to be out for like 2 to 3 weeks. That makes him a big winner coming out of this game in Washington, because when we saw the injury live, it wasn't looking good. I mean, initially, I know a lot of you guys probably, definitely myself, was thinking, damn, was that like ACL? Was that Achilles? Then whenever you saw the slow motion replay and how his ankle bent, you're like, damn, it's really only 2 options. It's either ankle sprain or it's broke, and it's not broke. So I think he's coming out of this one a winner, all things considered. And then we got Cam Hayward. Got to shout out Cam Hayward. Probably his best game of the season, and stepped up really clutch when we needed him to, because the defense was up and down at times. And I think he was a very consistent force. He was a steadying force on the defensive side, getting those 2 sacks Also had a pass deflection. Almost was picked off by TJ. Should have been picked off by TJ. But those were some big-time sacks because those were at times where it felt like Commanders had momentum on offense. And Jaden Daniels was cooking. He was heating up a little bit, getting across midfield, and you're just thinking, damn, are they going to score again? But then Cam would get a big sack, take them out of field goal range. They'd have to punt. So big shout-out to Cam. Probably his best game of the season, too. Him and Patrick Queen. Minka had a really – I think he had a good game, too. I think he was like a unsung hero. I think you could throw him and like Deshaun Elliott in the winners category, too. Deshaun Elliott's just picking up where he's leaving off game in and game out. And I think Minka bounced back from some of these games that he's been having recently where you're not seeing him much, but then when you are seeing him, he's around a not-so-good play. Gotta put the newcomers, Preston Smith and Mike Williams, in the winners category. Preston Smith had a big tackle for loss late in the game because even though it was in limited time, each of these guys really didn't get that many snaps. They had a big impact. Preston Smith had that big tackle for loss on the wide receiver screen late in the game. I think it was it on the last series? It was either the second to last series or was it the last series where they threw this wide receiver screen and the dude starts running to the middle of the field. And if Smith don't make that tackle, who knows if he's able to turn up field, gain yards, maybe get a first. I know it was a far ways away from the first down, but sometimes whenever you're running that stuff and fluky stuff happens, you get momentum. You could snowball. You could pinball your way into a first down or close to it. So Preston Smith for making that tackle, and then Mike Williams for making the game-winning catch. And I'm telling you, look at that replay. I said it yesterday on the stream. That wasn't a simple catch. It's one that a professional receiver should make, but it's not an easy catch. The dude's like looking over his shoulder. It's dropped down to him, Willie Mays style, but also add to the fact the pressure and how much that catch meant considering what he was coming from in New York, running the wrong routes, getting called out by Rodgers, being the scapegoat there. If he don't make that catch in that crucial moment, who knows how we're talking about Mike Williams and we're talking about the acquisition of trading for him. So shout out to him. We should have been playing him more throughout the course of the game. Don't know why we were running go routes and running deep routes with Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson when you just traded for Mike Williams. Now, granted, Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, they've picked up their play over the last couple games and have developed a chemistry with Russell Wilson. But once you saw it wasn't working out early on, like, what's the hesitation of putting Mike Williams in there? But yeah, shout out to the newcomers, Mike Williams, Preston Smith. And actually, you could also throw Ben Skoranek in here. Because there was a little bit of a controversy with him getting called up to the active roster because it also involved releasing former first-round pick for the Steelers, Terrell Edmunds. Very familiar name. So it worked out with calling Ben Skoranek up because he was an asset on special teams, big-time asset on special teams. Him and Pierre were the gunners. You could see him time in and time out, getting all the way down the field, putting pressure on the return man. So that's why we called him up, because he has more special teams prowess than Edmunds, obviously. We didn't utilize him on offense. I think he was out there for a couple snaps, but he didn't get any targets. He didn't do anything on offense. But for special teams, Steelers basically made the call. They made the statement by calling him up and releasing Terrell Edmunds that Skoranek was going to be a better special teams asset for us. And in this game, he proved that. Lastly, got to shout out George Pickens. Another really big game from him with Russell Wilson being the quarterback. 5 catches, 91 yards, touchdown. Had the first touchdown of the game. That was a sweet catch, too. That was a really sweet catch from him. Shout out to Russ for throwing it up to him, enabling Pickens to make a play, enabling Pickens to use his talent. There was no fluky stuff with Pickens either. There was no head-scratching moments, I think, right? The only one would be whenever he jumped up and did like the jump stiff arm and had the ball, was loosely carrying the ball, almost like Shady McCoy, just like in his other hand, but he held it up so no defender can get it. He's loose with it sometimes. We get it. He's not the most detailed guy when he gets the ball in his hands. That's something you got to watch out for. That's something that could hurt us, has hurt us in the past, but the dude, for the most part, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, he's making plays. He's doing something positive. So that's what you get with George Pickens. You just hope at some point he can really put it all together, get the details all together, but that didn't hurt us in this game at least. So shout out to George Pickens. Big game from him. Really big game from him. And I liked how we got him more involved in the second half after seeing what Jaden Daniels was doing with Terry McLaurin. We saw coming right out of halftime. Boom, boom, like 2-3 passes in a row, gets the ball to McLaurin. McLaurin has like 70 yards and basically like 2 catches. Has the one where it flips the field right out of halftime, and then crucial first down conversion on third down. It was like third down in our zone, in the red zone. Daniels hits McLaurin again on a slant, makes a move, gets the first down. And I was saying right after that happened, why aren't we doing that with Pickens? Can we please just do that with Pickens? It can't be that hard to just hit him on a slant for like 5-6 yards and let him see what he could do with it. And we did start to do that more and more in the second half. So shout out to the Steelers and Russell Wilson for getting Pickens involved more. So now I guess our only option is to get to the losers. Again, I'm not going to belabor this. We're 7-2. Yeah, you could look at many things, game in, game out, even on wins that you could critique, complain about. I don't think this is the time to be going over the top with critiques and really like putting dudes on blast over not having a good game. But we're going to say James Pierre for obvious reasons. Catch the fake punt. But he did step up for us when Dante Jackson went down and Pierre had to play some crucial snaps late in the game. And, had a little pass deflection at the end. I think did they give him credit for that? They should. Yeah, they did. Good. They gave James Pierre credit. Pass deflection. End of the game. I was worried about them throwing a flag on him because he didn't have his head turned around. If he had his head turned around, he would have picked it because Jaden Daniels underthrew that a little bit. But still a good play. Definitely a good play by Pierre. But we know the one that was the X factor and was pretty critical in how the game flow went. The whole fake punt drop. And he knows too, man. Like he said he was catching it all week. He said he was ready for it. Probably was too ready for it. Don't take this the wrong way. But I'm putting TJ Watt in the losers category. TJ Watt, still awesome. TJ Watt was still doing TJ Watt things. He was having an impact. Commanders shifted that side of the line towards TJ. Like, he gathers all that attention. He's still doing stuff. Still making things happen. Had the pass deflection. Also had a couple QB hits. Rushed Jaden Daniels to make some, if he throws at times, make some incompletions, throw the ball away. But the reason I got him in the losers category, because I feel like with performances like this, he is losing the defensive player of the year. It's slipping away from his hands. He was the odds-on favorite, I think, even going back to last week while we were on the bye. And we even know this isn't TJ Watt's best season from a production standpoint. He's still TJ Watt. He's still the best defensive player of the league. But I'm just talking about TJ and the buzz for defensive player of the year. Like, I think he might start getting lost in the shuffle if performances like this continue. And it's still a good performance. It's still a positive performance. Like, he really should be in the winners category. Really should be, because he's still playing good and having impact. I bet you PFF, even with TJ not having a sack in this game, I bet you PFF graded him out to be like a 95, 96. This is TJ Watt's best season from a PFF standpoint. But I feel like the buzz for the depoy, it's just it's trending in the wrong direction for TJ. So don't take me categorizing him in the losers category in the wrong way. Do not do that. Please don't. But last guy, JPJ. This might have been his worst game as a Steeler, but still, it wasn't god awful. It wasn't terrible. Yeah, McLaurin had some catches on him. The one was good coverage on JPJ. It's just you got to tip your cap to Jaden Daniels for making a perfect throw and Terry McLaurin for making a perfect catch on the sideline. That was like the 20 or 25-yard throw down the sideline. Nothing JP could really do about that. Maybe it could have been a little better covered. Maybe. I don't know. He was right there. It was just a perfect throw, perfect catch. But McLaurin, he ended the day with some good stats. And some of those catches were on JPJ. The one that would probably get talked about the most, or the one that got McLaurin the most yardage, was that slant pass that I was just talking about coming out of halftime, where Daniels threw it to McLaurin, middle of the field, and he goes and runs for like 50, 60 yards. Credit to JPJ for ultimately making that tackle and catching up to McLaurin. We know McLaurin ain't a slow dude. But if you look at it, it looked like JP was off cover. It wasn't like he was in man coverage. That might have been a zone or some type of leverage where he was actually trying to get McLaurin to go to the inside because he was going to have help. So if you take that away, if you take that catch away from McLaurin, what does he end up with? 4 receptions, like 50, 60 yards? Not the end of the world. But the really bad thing, or the other parts of JPJ's game yesterday, were the penalties, where that's not going to show up on the stat sheet, but we knew it helped the Commanders move the ball. Now, the one was bullshit. The one on McLaurin in the red zone, it was at the goal line. It looked like McLaurin slipped. It was like a flop, but they called JP for the holding or the defensive pass interference or something like that. So I'd give credit to JPJ for 3 of those penalties being called. One of them was the refs making a bad decision to throw the flag. But yeah, that's it for the loser. I mean, if that's all we're talking about, not bad, man. Not bad. Again, we're at 7-2. That was a big win. We definitely had a lot more winners and more positive things to talk about from yesterday's game. And again, even in the losers category, there were caveats to each dude. Pierre, yeah, he had the drop fake punt, but he still had some impact late in the game. TJ Watt, we're just not seeing traditional TJ Watt games out of him, where it's 2 sacks, a forced fumble, a pass deflection, that type of stuff. But he's still TJ Watt. He's still the best defensive player in the league. Whenever I watch him play, he's still drawing all the attention. He's still having impact. Trust me. Like, don't get me wrong on this. It's just we're not seeing the gaudy numbers. We're not seeing the gaudy stacks, and we're not seeing him at that next level right now. But when push comes to shove, when you need the clutch sack or you need him to step up, he does that, because we saw what happened in the last series. Hits Jaden Daniel, ball flies out. Could have maybe been a fumble in past NFL years. Who knows? But, like, yeah, TJ Watt, there's still a lot of good things to be talking about with him. And then JPJ, same thing. Like, if you look past the penalties, you look past or not look past. If you actually look at the context of McLaurin's game, was that really, like, all on JPJ? Yeah, McLaurin he got the best of him at times, but to the degree where you look at the stats and say, oh, man, JPJ let up 5 receptions, 113 yards. I don't know. Yeah, that one where McLaurin went for 50, 60, was that on JPJ? I would like to hear from someone. Not that I need to, but either from Terrell Austin or JPJ himself. We're probably not going to get an answer, but it just looked like to me JP was, in a way, letting McLaurin catch that slant. He wasn't pressed up on him, man coverage, anything like that. So, yeah, that's it for today's show. Victory Monday reaction. Hope you guys enjoyed. The mic is fixed. Stay chilling, and peace.